I'm Darryl Haley, Executive Director of Development here at Metro. Metro has made a lot of improvements over the past few years, including adding new types of buses, new facilities and services, and new ways to pay your fare. We're now taking it to the next level with a new regional transit planning process beginning this spring called Way to Go. We're asking the community, which way do you think Metro should go next? Our goal is to define the new Metro, a customer-driven, sustainable regional transit system. Your opinions are very important to us. Metro is offering many ways for you to share your ideas for improved transit service, including surveys and this video presentation you're about to see. For more information or to complete a survey, visit us at www.go-metro.com. Thank you for your participation and support as we chart a new direction for Metro.
So the things that we're talking about in the presentation are the goals and objectives, somehow land use and population and employment densities fit into this, the different types of transit that we'll look at as a part of this process, some of the capital enhancements that we'll also be looking at as part of this process, and finally the needs discussion where you'll be assisting us. So from a goals perspective, one of the things that we want to do as a part of this is to analyze how the existing service is operating. And we'll take a look at the service standards, i.e. how Metro measures itself, how it measures whether a route's successful or service is successful or not successful. We'll also take a look at the service quality. How well is the service operating right now? Is service operating on time? Are there overcrowding issues? And things of that nature, so we'll be able to analyze that as well. We'll take a look at service coverage. Does Metro go to the right places within Hamilton County and the surrounding counties? Are there opportunities or places where Metro should go as a part of this plan? We'll take a look at the service efficiency and effectiveness of each one of the existing routes. How well are each one of the routes working? Are there routes that are underperforming? And also, are there routes that are overperforming? And I mean by that there's clear warrants for additional services along those areas. So those are some of the things we'll be taking a look at. And last but not least, we'll be taking a look at some of the unmet needs in the areas. And we'll be using several different techniques to be able to do that, ranging from public meetings like we're at right now, to surveys for both users and non-users. And I'll talk a little bit about that in the rest of the presentation. We're going to use that information to create two different types of plans. One is a more short-range plan, what happens in the next 5 years, and then we'll then be looking at what happens in the 5 to 10-year range as well. So this is not only how do we move things around right now for Metro services, but what is the vision for Metro in the future, and how does that vision play out with the job growth and changing employment and population patterns within Hamilton County and the surrounding areas. Some of the things we'll take a look at as a part of this are land uses. This is, we'd like to take a look at where the residential areas are, where the employment areas are, and this is just a land use map of Hamilton County. But we'd like to go a step further with that as well. We take a look at where the densities of population are and the densities of employment are. For instance, if you can see right here, any of the dark green areas are areas where population densities are the highest in Hamilton County. So, one of the things we like to do is take a look at the population densities throughout the area, and you'll see right here where there's, darker green areas are where the higher density population areas are. And one of the things that we found in our planning efforts across the country is the higher population densities you have, the more likelihood it is that people will use transit service. And one of the things we like to do is to try to figure out where those population densities are and begin looking at where we need to connect those two. So we did this not just from a population density perspective, but also an employment density perspective, where we look at where are the biggest concentrations of employment. And so what we see is it's not only downtown and uptown, but there's also areas scattered throughout Hamilton County where there are significant employment densities. And so as a part of this process, we're going to look at how do we best connect those employment areas and those population areas with each other to try to enhance mobility for everyone here. One of the things we also do is to try to take a look at, what types of transit will be successful. You need to have certain types of densities from an employment, how many jobs there are and how many people there are living in certain areas for certain types of transit to be successful. And these range anywhere from light rail or commuter rail, which is on one side of this graph right here, to bus rapid transit and to frequent bus service, which is on the other side of this. And for the purposes of this study, we're going to be focusing mostly on frequent bus service or regular bus service and bus rapid transit. We're not going to be focusing on light rail or commuter rail as a part of this 10-year plan. Some of the things we will specifically be looking at are senior shuttles. There's a growing population of seniors, and the projections all say the same thing, that the number of people over 65 are going to be steadily increasing in Hamilton County. So we need to look at what are their transportation needs? How do we make sure that they are able to get to grocery stores, get to services, get to medical appointments? So this will be an element of this plan. We'll also be taking a look at regular fixed route service, something that is operating right now. How can we use fixed route services and put it in areas where there's an additional need for it? How can we look at areas and making enhancements to where the fixed route service is right now that's operating? We'll also begin looking at something called service routes, and this is a concept that you don't necessarily serve a route 7 days a week, but you say, in this area, in this neighborhood, 1 day a week, we're going to create a bus route that takes people to go shopping or takes people to medical appointments, so that the folks, the population, transportation disadvantaged people that live in that neighborhood have a way to maintain their mobility. We'll also be looking at a series of express routes. What is the demand for service, not from the outlying areas, from the suburbs into downtown? What is the demand to uptown? There's only one express route right now into uptown. Should there be more? And if so, where should they be coming from? We'll also be looking at the demand from Cincinnati to some of the job sites that are happening outside of, in the 275 area, where job access, can be enhanced as a part of this. So we'll be looking at both coming into Cincinnati as well as going out of Cincinnati for these types of express services. We'll also be looking at limited stop services. How can we make your bus service faster than what it is right now? What are some of the tricks we can use in order to do that? And making limited stop services where the bus stops are less closely spaced is a way to improve travel time for current bus riders. One of the other elements that we'll be looking at as a part of this effort is bus rapid transit. And this is a new concept, and because it's a new concept, I'll be spending a little bit more time of it, but there's a concurrent bus rapid transit study going on right now that goes into much greater detail than this. But I wanted to show some of the potential elements and applicability over the next 10 years of this concept. So what is bus rapid transit? In essence, it's a bus route, an enhanced bus route that acts more like a rail service. It has its own separate branding. It has its own separate stations. The stop spacing is not every couple hundred yards, but instead it's half mile to a mile apart. And it's a way to create a rail-like atmosphere for in existing bus corridors. It can operate in-street or can operate in its own separate right-of-way. So, and the look and feel of these buses are not to be like a bus, but it's to be something a little bit more modern. We'll also be looking at a series of capital enhancements as a part of this. This is not just about where do bus routes go, but what capital facilities can help attract more riders and keep more riders on the system. We'll be taking a look at transit centers, transit stations, and enhanced stops along the way. We'll also be looking at, as a part of this, what technology improvements such as real-time information systems, so that you can get information if you're standing at a bus stop from when the next bus is coming, for instance, and either on your phone and a display up at the bus stop itself, and that's something that's coming to the Government Square, in the next year, and also in-bus displays. So these are all things from a technology perspective we'll be examining over the next 10 years how these can work together with existing Metro services to create an enhanced experience for existing customers and to begin attracting more customers to be using Metro services. So how do we get there? This is the beginning of this process right now. We have just started in this past week is this public outreach process, and we've got a lot of work to do in order to get to where we can assess what our existing needs are and how to best make changes or what changes to be looking at as a part of this. We're conducting several different market research efforts. We'll be looking at what the current users, what their unmet needs are by having an onboard survey. In the next month, we're going to have people on every bus route operated by Metro and handing out onboard surveys to help understand what their existing riders' needs are. We're also going to be looking at non-users and what their needs are. There's a telephone household survey going on right now. So there's an online survey going on right now. There's this public processes right here where we're asking you as citizens what your unmet needs are. And what the idea here is to try to paint a big picture of, if we look at making enhancements to Metro services, what should they be and what are the needs and how can we best begin meeting those needs?